I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator Mike Lee responded to the leaked Supreme Court draft opinion that revealed the High Court might strike down federal abortion rights. The leak has reignited the abortion debate in the U.S., with Republicans celebrating the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade and Democrats slamming it. Now, the Democratic majority is seeking a vote on the Women's Health Protection Act Wednesday, which would codify abortion rights into law. Lee decried this legislation as, quote, the abortion on demand until the moment of birth act. Here's more from the Utah senator.
From Utah.
Mr. President, my colleagues and I are here today to highlight the fact that our Democratic colleagues have shown the American people how truly radical they are when it comes to abortion. The Women's Health Protection Act, what I believe should be better known as the Abortion on Demand Until the Moment of Birth Act, casts a vision of abortion in America, one utterly without limitation. Federalism is one of the truly genius ideas behind the U.S. Constitution. Federalism means that we make the majority of our decisions at a more local level rather than at the national level. When we rely on the principle of federalism, more people across the country have more reason to be content with the laws they have. People have a greater say in the legislative process at the local level, which means they get more of the kind of government they want and less of the kind of government they don't want. For nearly the last half-century, the decisions in Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey have abused the Constitution by reading into the Constitution a right that exists nowhere in the Constitution. These wrongly decided cases have wreaked havoc on public trust in government, on the Republican nature of our government, on the public's understanding of the Constitution. More greatly, these decisions have permitted the euphemistically described, quote-unquote, termination of 63 million American lives. That's more than 45 times the number of American lives lost in war since the founding of our nation, every war combined. 45 times that. Let that sink in for a minute. Abortion is a tragedy. It's one that's scarring our nation's history because of what it says about how we respect human life. Those scores of millions of lives represent, each and every one of them, unique and unrepeatable genetic makeups and identities and potentials. They represent the loss of Americans of all races, varying physical and mental abilities, all political affiliations, and professions, with many targeted because of their race, sex, or disability. Their termination is a loss of ideas, of innovation, and of compassion. Those abortions erase all potential families and communities. Those abortions represent the loss of infinite potential connection and love. Abortion is a tragedy that scars our history. So when I read Justice Alito's draft opinion in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, I was elated. Elated because it relies on federalism and a sound reading of the Constitution to reassert that there is no constitutional right to an abortion just because a combination of lawyers wearing robes 48 years ago decided that would be the case does not make it so. Our Constitution is difficult to amend, and it's deliberately that way. They didn't follow this procedure. They tried to circumvent it, and they were wrong. Regulating abortion is a matter reserved for the American people and their elected representatives, not 9 unelected judges. For that very reason, a number of people have turned against it, and because they can't characterize it the way that it actually is, they mischaracterize it. Then they go so far as to encourage people to show up to the homes, the private residences of the Supreme Court justices in question. There is no reason to do this that doesn't involve an implicit threat of violence. When you show up at someone's home, you're sending an unmistakable message. We know where you sleep. That's why this is expressly prohibited under federal law. There's a federal criminal law prohibiting this under 18 U.S.C. Section 1507. Now, stunningly, the White House, the president's personal spokesperson, Jen Psaki, just in the last few hours, has repeated this charge, has encouraged people to do this, saying, quote, "We certainly continue to encourage protests outside of judges' homes." This is wrong, and I call on the President of the United States personally to undo this. He is encouraging unlawful behavior that is inherently dangerous and is inherently threatening. This radical bill, it's emerged in the days immediately following the leak of the Dobbs draft opinion, is shrouded in the lie of protecting women's health while allowing for killing babies by any means, however gruesome, violent, atrocious, heinous, or cruel, right up until the moment of birth, preempting any state laws that might choose to protect life. Those late-term abortions not only kill viable babies, but they're unreasonably, needlessly cruel, and they are extremely dangerous procedures for the mothers themselves. Unlimited abortion is also widely unpopular. Only 17% of Americans believe that that's the right policy. Among medical professionals, the feelings are similar. Research shows that over 1/3 of OBGYNs in America would not even refer a patient for an abortion. But this bill is, as written, would require those same doctors not only to refer, but also to provide abortions or risk their employment. Notwithstanding any ethical objection they may have to it, notwithstanding any religious objection they may have to it, by waiving the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, carving it out, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, or RFRA as it's known, so a religious liberty protection enacted by an overwhelming supermajority of Democrats and Republicans. This bill would require hospitals and healthcare workers to perform abortions in violation of their own religious convictions. With this bill, Democrats in the House and the Senate are attempting to take this issue away from the people, away from the states, and force their radical abortion agenda on the American people as a whole. Now, make no mistake, this is their vision for America, fully funded by the abortion industry. It also perpetuates the tragedy of abortion, one that's a scar on our country's history. I hope and pray that state legislatures across the country will follow the example of the state of Utah and pass laws to protect the lives of preborn babies and their mothers. Thank you, Mr. President.